Hello to everyone. Today I'm going to present my manuscript. The case that I chose is creating context of human rights records, civil war in El Salvador. So I'm going to explain briefly the overview. So the thesis statement of this project is why this record should be accession to Wilson Center Digital Archive. Why is so important to incorporate the Yellow Book into the digital archive? So first I'm going to explain the context of the Yellow Book. In the second part, I'm going to answer what was my initial response to an appraisal problem and how my response changed. In the third part, I'm going to explain my meta reflection of concepts such as evidence and collective memory. Then I'm going to talk about conclusion and finally the bibliography. So concerning the context, why is so important the Yellow Book? What is the Yellow Book? So this book was a product of espionage from the intelligence section of the military of El Salvador. It was created between 1979 and 1987. In other sources, says 1987. It was recovered in 2013. It has 270 pages and it lists names and photographs of almost 2,000 people who were considered potential terrorist criminals. The objective of this book was to persecute and exterminate political opponents and civilians, innocent civilians. Why is so important this Yellow Book? Well, because it's a stone in the puzzle. It helps to corroborate data collected in other records on the human rights organization in El Salvador. Concerning the appraisal decision section, I answer what was my initial response to an appraisal problem and how my response changed. Well, I say the initial group decision hasn't changed too much comparing to the current decision. In both cases, they agree that the Yellow Book should be part of the Wilson Center collection. The first reason is because its content and historical context are consistent with the items in the Wilson Center's collection. The second reason is because it would fill a gap in the Wilson Center collection by providing information on the movements of the Salvadorian government during the Cold War. Concerning the differences, so the initial appraisal process did not use external sources, which corroborate the initial information because of the lack of the time. The current decision is based on other theories like memory, evidence, right? And it helped me to get a moralistic and responsible evaluation, and also it helped me to make a better decision concerning the incorporation of the Yellow Book. Concerning the meta reflection, I used two concepts. The use of the concept of evidence and the concept of collective memory. Concerning the evidence, I would say that it has the level of connection between primary and privative facts, which identify, preserve, and communicate the relationship between this record and the historical event in El Salvador. That's why this Yellow Book has a privative value, because it could be corroborated and it could be used to identify broadly what happened in that time, and also who were the responsible of the persecution of those people, or the victims, actually. Concerning the collective memory, I would say that through this what I said, through this collective memory, the society of El Salvador may be able to complement, improve, and recognize the meaning of these records, so they can give like a voice to the people who unfortunately couldn't what I say criticize and also say the truth because of several reasons. But this evidence it's enough to help even the victims' relatives to uh, to remember and to remind the rest of the people in Salvador uh, what happened in that time, right? I mean, to not repeat the same story or the same history in the future. Before mentioning the conclusion, it's very important to mention the thanks to the case study one, I learned how to support my argument through the use of different sources. Also, thanks to the case study two, I learned how to support a position or statement based on two or one approach, or well, no more than two approaches. Um, Concerning the appraisal exercise, I would say that it was very useful because I could put myself into the archivist shoes, and I can discuss or deliberate if the record, such as the yellow book, is worthy to be accessioned in the digital archive or not. So yeah. Well, concerning the conclusion, I would say that this case points out the need of for the addition, well, the accession of the yellow book to the Wilson Center Digital Archive. So the context and the content of this book and its analytical understanding support the importance of its acquisition for the digital archive. Through the decision I have always been in favor of the accession of the yellow book to the digital archive. The current evaluation decision has changed a little comparing to the initial group decision. This new evaluation decision is based on concepts of evidence and collective memory. The first, the yellow book, was created based on the facts that gave rise to it, which qualifies it as proof or privative record. This enables the future preservation of the document in the digital archive. Finally, the collective memory approach allows a continuous reassessment, update, and reinterpretation that avoids any misrepresentation of the history of human rights abuses in El Salvador. So it's very helpful because the Salvadorians can, learn from the past, do not repeat the same mistakes, and also it would be very helpful to avoid any violation of human rights. And finally, in my bibliography, I use 7 sources of the class. For example, like Mahan, Ketalar, Hestrong, Cook, Cox, Bastian, which were very useful for the theory that I use in this paper. Also, there are other external sources like Patrick Ball, which compares the list of the names of the Yellow Book with the list of the names from 4 databases in El Salvador. And also there are other Archivos Secretos de la Dictadura from different sources, which help me with the context. Thank you so much for listening to me. Bye.